Hello and welcome to Cutter Farms. We're back with another episode of Flint Hills, Iowa by JS Mapping. We're starting off here in late spring, feeding our pigs, cleaning up the mess on the ground here. We have advanced several days and seasons, waiting for our ground temperature to finally warm up. I think I'm going to actually just leave this tractor sitting here. We're going to need to do something with it later. If we look at our pigs here real quick, you can see I just finished feeding and watering them. And we've got several pigs that have animals coming in 0.2 years. And then a bunch that have them coming in 0.3 years now still. So we're going to double the number of cows that we have, the number of pigs that we have here. In the next several days here. By late summer, I expect we're going to have probably 20 more pigs in this pen. So we're definitely going to need to keep them fed. Now, we got a fair amount of rain the last couple of days, but luckily it dried out a good amount. And so we're going to be able to get started on some planting. If we look at our planting calendar here, you can see that corn, we could have started putting in at 55 degrees. We were a little bit below that yesterday. I think it was like 53 degrees Fahrenheit ground temperatures, and we jumped all the way up to 59 here. This is one of those situations where maybe if we were playing with longer seasons, we'd have a little bit more variation, but it is what it is. I think, though, we actually want to put some soybeans in and get that going because we're going to be able to harvest those the soonest. And so I think what we're going to do is rather than tie up our DB60, I think we're going to be able to run both of these at the same time. And so we're going to push this 8400 a little bit. I think it's just a smidge underpowered for this drill, but I'd really like to be able to get the soybeans going here with the drill, and then we'll put corn in with the DB60 and be able to run both of these planters at the same time. Well, I guess only one of them's a planter technically. This would be a seeder or a drill, but you know what I'm saying. So let's get this out in the yard here. I don't think that it has a tank that's going to open. So what I'm going to do is just move it maybe just a little bit more out into the yard here. And we're going to go grab the truck and the seed tender and see what we can do to get some seed in here. We were completely not thinking last time when we were prepping the planter that we would also need to be getting this seeder going. I think I anticipated getting a head start on corn by a day before we were going to need to do some seeding, but we can't complain that we've got the weather to be able to do what we need to do. I just hope that this seed tender is going to work appropriately with the seeder here and that we're not going to run into any unexpected issues. I am not getting into this tank with the seed tender, unfortunately. We're going to try and get just a bit closer because I don't know that I'm quite getting over that lid, but I didn't see a uncover option. This does not seem to be doing a whole lot of anything. Unfortunate. So what I'm going to do is just on a whim, I'm going to let these little wings down, and then we're going to see if I've missed something and maybe there's a way to open this up, but I'm not seeing it. I just now noticed that this tractor also has IC installed, which shouldn't give me any issues with this, and I've just come to the conclusion that it is not the seeder's fault. It is maybe my fault for not typing this out of the appropriate tender. Type 2 has the seeds in it. Let's try this one more time. I do not seem to be able to put seeds into this. So we're going to just make sure we've got this all hooked up. I don't see anything else here. And then I still see no way to empty this, although my seed tender is not even over the cart here. So as it turns out, the 8400 mod that I have is not interacting well. This is the second piece of equipment I've tried to put it on that it did not work well. I tried it on the mixer wagon before and had issues with that, so there's obviously something wrong with this particular mod. It does have IC on it, so I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. I don't know for sure, but we're going to swap it out for the time being, and IC is not going to work well with course play anyway, and so I think what we're going to do is just go with what we've got here. I'm going to actually put this on the other tractor over here. I'm going to put it on the big 8960, I think, to pull the seeder, and put the 8RX back on the planter here in a little bit. Just because, I don't know, I want to use the 8960. Where I'll leave the cultivator here. We need to wash that up at some point. We'll work on getting that back into the shed here in a few moments after we get this planter going, or seeder going. We are going to rinse this off real quick, so it's going to really irk me if I'm driving around and it's completely dirty. It's the first planting of the season. We need to make sure that we're looking good out there in the fields. Don't need the neighbors calling us out. There we go. So let's see if this thing's gonna handle this. We don't need a 3-point or anything to run this seeder. We just need hydraulics, which I think we should be good for. I do like the sounds on this 8960. I think they did a decent job. I don't know how realistic they are, but they do just sound good. And the hoses look good too. Alright, we're going to hold this back up and get it into the field. I don't know where the best place is going to be to start. Field 21 is a pretty wonky setup field. So I think what we're going to do is just come over here and tell it to start right here in this corner and see what happens. I'm really curious to see how far we get. So this field was a wheat field, so I don't know how much the season's crop rotation has to do now that we also have the precision farming. We're going to find out here, though. All right, so we've got course play working here finally after a little bit of finagling. And unfortunately, one seeder here is not going to cut it. We have drastically underestimated our needs on this map. So if we were to plant with this, it would take around 7 hours for us to plant this field with this particular vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and stop this driver now and rethink our lives, because I am not looking to spend 7 hours, even idle 7 hours, to put soybeans into that field. And so we need to go compare some stats with our other planter. It's a real shame because I was kind of looking forward to trying this out. What we really need is for the custom modding seeder to come out. That would be the more appropriately sized implement for this field. So let me just come up here. I'm going to dump this seed out of this seeder here real quick. Since we aren't going to be using it, I'm going to just pull it over here out of the way. and we'll check back in just a moment when I have figured out what comes next. So after much finagling and a couple of calls to the dealer, we have sold the 8400, which was having some issues, and our Cedar, and traded them in for a little bit of a deal on this DB120. I wasn't really looking to jump all the way up to a DB120 this quick in the series, but it needed to be done. So we're gonna get over here and see what this is gonna do for our times here. So after several hours of troubleshooting and becoming way more familiar with courseplay than I ever thought I would be, we have come to the conclusion that we cannot generate a courseplay course for an implement this wide on a field this, what do we call it, awkward. So we're going to go ahead and get our planter going here with GPS, and then I'll bring up the map and talk about what I've learned about courseplay. So if we look at the definition for field 21 here, we're running into issues because the field has some of these narrow spots, both up here and in some of these areas, probably down and around here, where in order for it to generate a headland course, it has to be able to do so without overlapping itself. And so I can't generate 2 headland passes for sure, and I couldn't generate even a single headland pass with the DB120 due to how narrow it is up here at the end by the road here. In the interest of getting our crops in, I'm going to just go ahead and plant the headland passes here manually, and then we'll hire off a normal worker. And then I'm going to investigate either using the AI extension mod, which might be able to handle this field differently than courseplay, or, you know, quite honestly, I think a normal worker would probably work okay in this field. And at some point we wanted to try and figure out what the effects of RTX are, so this might be a good time to do that. But the quickest path forward in order to get some fields planted and, you know, quite honestly move on with getting some videos out here on this series is going to be to just tackle planting this field ourselves, which is really kind of ironic that the one field that we're going to do semi-manually is the largest field in the game. I mean, field 21 is just absolutely ginormous, so this will be very interesting to see what comes of it. I think even in the future, we could probably just cordon off part of this field, maybe separate it. I could put a grass strip here and just maybe make this smaller peninsula part here one small field, and then we could tackle that with our smaller equipment, either manually or Courseplay's probably going to be able to handle that field better if it's just a, you know, smaller piece. So that's our plan. I'm hoping that once we get the single headland pass here, that this tractor and planter are going to be able to handle things with a normal worker, and then we're going to be able to move on and start maybe getting our corn put in with the other tractor and planter setup. Our plan is to do soybeans throughout field 21 here, and then put corn into 16, 25, and 26. And as you can see, it's pretty narrow up here at the end. This planter is just ginormous. Even with this big DB120, I think it's still going to take a couple of hours to plant field 21, especially if we're having to use a normal worker. This is a horrible idea. I should not have driven into the ditch. Oh, we almost got smashed by that car. Whoa. Whoa. This was a bad idea. In the future, I'll probably just start here, heading back down the other way, rather than trying to pull through the ditch. That was not a great idea. I'm also unsure how far this seed is going to get us. It looks like it's dropping pretty quick here. And so we're definitely going to need to refill the planter I'm just hoping we can make it all the way around the field once before we run out. But watching how fast the percent is dropping down there, and we aren't even a quarter of the way around the field yet, I am a little skeptical that we're going to be able to make it. So I'm experimenting with trying to use a controller to steer. I thought it would make things a little bit smoother as I went around some of these curvy areas, but I'm finding that the sensitivity on my controller must be just really cranked up, because I think it's almost jerkier than using the keyboard because it's so sensitive. I barely touch the stick and everything just jerks to the side. So that's something I'm going to have to work on a little bit. Continuing to try new things to improve the experience overall. But I thought I would share that experience with you guys, especially since it seems like it's not the smoothest camera work that I was hoping for. I've heard a lot of people talk about that's how they're getting kind of their more gradual, like this, where you can really pan around and have it be smoother. But with it being so sensitive, it's really hard for me to control. So I'll work on that. We're also keeping an eye on our seed level. Can't do that with the UI closed. So I kind of open things up to see where we are on the map. I'm really hoping I don't have to try and refill the seed while I'm up here on the backside of the field. I'm hoping to at least get to the end of this row. I think that's a road between field 23 and 21, or at least a little bit of a grass stretch. So that's my hope, is that we can get to the west end of this field before we run out of seed, and then we'll have to go look into what we're going to do from a seed tender perspective and get some more seed out to this planter. Seeing how fast we're going through the seed, I have some serious concerns about our ability to keep up with our little tiny seed tender. I did not anticipate that we would need quite so much seed, but this is a pretty big field, so we're gonna keep working on things. I think a couple of people suggested that maybe I get a larger seed tender, and I am suddenly thinking that is a very good idea. So we might look into either a semi-based seed tender or just something that's bigger in general before we get too much farther along in this planting cycle, because I don't want to be running back and forth to the co-op a whole bunch of times to fill up our little seed tender. I should have realized as soon as we upgraded from a DB60 to a DB120 that was going to become a problem for us. We're at 5% seed left, and I just don't know that I'm going to make it to the end here. I also should have filled up my fuel while I was in the yard. This increased fuel consumption is doing its job. We're already at a half a tank of fuel on this 8960 after doing our tillage work, and really we only did a couple of fields with it, so that's feeling pretty good. I'm liking all of these extra additions to make me pay attention to a few more mechanics in the game. 1% seed. We're just not going to make it to the end. Not that the end is exactly what I was hoping for anyway. It looks like it's this creek continues to run down by these fields, so I wouldn't have been able to get our seed tender up here regardless. Oh, and there we go. I think what we'll do is just drive this down to the road, fill it up, and then I can drive back up here with it. Oh, it does look like this might be a little path to get up here to the corner of this field, though. That would be handy. Not quite a path, more just like a dirt separator. I think we'll still drive down to the blacktop road here and get squared away. I'm curious where the GPS line is here. If I continued along from all the way on the other end of the field there, I turn our show lines on, it's almost perfect for the width of this thing. All right, so I'm going to leave this guy here, and we're going to figure out our seed tender issues and get things really rocking and rolling in next episode. This has been a very educational episode, kind of getting started with planting and running into a whole bunch of problems here. So that's half of the fun with a series like this. I really enjoy just trying to get a better handle on things, having unexpected problems. It's, kind of part of farming. So with that, I think we're going to call it an episode. That's all for today. Kitterk out.